Welcome to tonight's ACS Oregon dinner. Well, our event will begin shortly, just after this brief preview. Welcome and good evening to tonight's ACS Oregon Lawyer Chapter virtual dinner. My name is Brad Krapika. I'll be your MC tonight. I'm also the president of the local chapter here. I want to welcome you all. Grab yourself a drink and get ready for tonight's great events as we toast some of the most celebrated members of Oregon's progressive legal community, as well as the national work that ACS has been doing throughout the year. We're honored this year to be joined by Oregon Senior U.S. Senator Ron Wyden and ACS National President Russ Feingold. We will also be honoring former Oregon Chief Justice Edwin Peterson with the Hans A. Linde Award and recognizing Juan Chavez, Civil Rights Project Director at the Oregon Justice Resource Center with our Rising Star Award. I just want to celebrate the great work that our local chapter has done through this year. On May 27th, we were joined by DA Mike Schmidt to talk about new avenues for change, Oregon criminal justice reform, as well as on September 9th, we had our ACS Oregon evictions event, joined by Legal Aid and the Oregon Law Center to discuss what's happening, what Legal Aid is doing, and how members of our progressive community could help during the foreclosure crisis happening locally here in Oregon and nationally. And join us this next Friday Pacific at noon for our chapter's annual Supreme Court review and preview. We couldn't be more thrilled to be putting on these great events, which all of our great sponsors are allowing us to do both here locally and nationally. And with that, I'd like to introduce Russ Feingold, who can provide us his perspective as ACS president and what ACS has been doing this year, and really want to thank him for joining us tonight and all the great work that he has been doing for this organization over the last few years, both under the Trump administration and now in Biden. The tireless work of ACS continues, and we're thrilled to have him join us tonight.
Thank you so much, Brad, for the nice words and especially for your tremendous leadership for us at ACS in Oregon. It's wonderful to join all of you this evening. Again, as always, wish I could be doing it in person, but happy to see you virtually. And I want to start by thanking today's organizers, Brad Krapika, Aaron Roycroft, Shelby Smith, Lucy Olson, Michael Robb, Mick Harris, and of course, the entire Oregon Lawyer Chapter Board of ACS. As you may know, we at the American Constitution Society are celebrating our 20th year of shaping legal debate, nurturing the next generation of lawyers, judges, and advocates, and ensuring that the law is a force for improving the lives of all people. As a part of that work, and in honor of this anniversary, we've been exploring the founding failures of our Constitution. We recognize the racial inequality isn't just rooted in the history of this country, it's rooted in our laws and in our legal systems. That's why at our national convention this year, we announced our formal support for a Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Commission in the United States. We think it's particularly important for the legal community to be active participants in and supporters of truth, racial healing, and transformation because of how much the history and infrastructure of white supremacy is intertwined with that of our laws and the judicial system. It's a simple truth that the legal system has too often served as a tool to uphold white supremacy from the writing of the Constitution to our laws today in 2021. It is long past time for our profession to help detail and rectify the harms inflicted by the system we contribute to and sustain. We are therefore encouraging our members and our chapters to engage with local initiatives that aim to reckon with state and local laws and history and explore opportunities for redress and restitution. And I could not be more proud of how our chapters have stepped up to do this work. While we are approaching the end of this anniversary year, our work in support of truth, racial healing, and transformation is just getting started. This will remain a central focus of our work in the months and years to come. A part of reckoning with our past for a more just future is also finally achieving a judiciary that reflects the diversity of the public it serves. One of our core tenets as an organization is that courts matter. We know this to be fact, and we know that who sits on our courts matter. Right now, our courts are overwhelmingly white and overwhelmingly male. ACS is on the front lines of changing this with our Path to the Bench project. As you might know from the press, ACS was all ready to go when Joe Biden was elected president around this exact time last year. Within hours of a declared victory, we sent over 400 names of qualified, diverse judicial candidates to his transition team, and we haven't let up since. How did this happen? It happened very clearly because our 53 working groups across the country, including there in Oregon, have identified diverse candidates in their states and local communities and have built a national pipeline of progressive and diverse candidates for the federal bench. We are in routine contact with the White House and with Senate offices to help identify candidates to fill federal court vacancies as soon as they open. And we are very clearly prioritizing racial, ethnic, gender, LGBTQ+, and professional diversity with the goal of finally achieving a judiciary that reflects the public it serves. And as one of the only groups delivering names from a nationwide grassroots effort, we are confident that our diverse progressive judicial candidates are being well received by the White House. I am so proud of our network and our pipeline and of the results we've actually seen. It wasn't just sending over 400 names. In fact, in the first 100 days, the Biden-Harris administration and the Senate confirmed more judges than the previous two administrations combined. Just as importantly, this administration has also shown an unparalleled commitment to nominating diverse candidates. So far, the confirmed judges under this administration have been majority women and a majority people of color, both by wide margins. We're also seeing great professional diversity with many candidates who bring experiences such as being public defenders to the bench. We are also prioritizing, as is the administration, candidates with experience in public interest law, labor law, and civil rights. We know that the background of judges impacts the administration of justice. We cannot have a credible judiciary when the vast majority of judges come from one or two backgrounds, namely former prosecutors or from corporate law firms. Our work is proving to be instrumental in diversifying our courts, which we believe improves the court's credibility and increases public trust in the judiciary. Again, it's just very clear. Our Path to the Bench project is a credit to you, to our members and our network. I am grateful every time I have the opportunity to speak at one of our chapter events like this, because it's a chance for me to applaud the work our chapters are doing and the incredible progress that ACS is achieving year in and year out. I also want to finally take a moment to thank today's award recipients for the incredible work they have done to advance a progressive vision of the law. Juan Chavez, who has been working tirelessly on impactful litigation for community justice, and Justice Edwin Peterson, who has demonstrated a career-long commitment to anti-racism and implemented broad reforms in the Oregon court system. I look forward to honoring these incredible Oregon legal leaders with you tonight, and also hearing from one of your truly excellent leaders in the Senate and my former colleague, Senator Ron Wyden. So thank you for attending. I will now turn things back to Brad.
And thank you so much, Russ, for all of your leadership during this days. The amount of hitting the ground running that we've been able to do since the Biden-Harris administration is just a testament to your leadership. And we're outstandingly glad to have you here this year and looking forward to see you in person next year, hopefully, when we return to normal. So thank you so much. And with that, we'll turn it to our award presentations now. First, I want to introduce Gil Carrasco, who, believe it or not, has been on our board since 2008, Gil. And we just can't be happier for all the work that you've done for us. I'll take just a brief moment here to thank Gil for his work as he's moving down to sunnier days in California and will be leaving our board after this year now after 13 years of service. Gil is a former U.S. Department of Justice lawyer who's been appointed on numerous local courts and appointees by the Oregon governor here. He's also been an incredible advocate for our progressive legal community and gave one of the best resounding beatdowns of the Federalist Society that I've ever seen in our undocumented civil rights procedure a few years ago. And we couldn't just be happier for Gil and have him on our board for as long as we have. But I'll turn it over to him to say a few words about the Linde Award and about Justice Peterson. But I couldn't leave it without embarrassing you a little bit, Gil, for all your work, and to thank you personally for all that you've done for us, all you've done for the progressive community here in Oregon, for the civil rights work that you've done over the tireless career, and for the Hispanic and Latino populations that you've represented and helped do an amazing amount of work for both here and nationally. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for those, Brad, for those kind words. We are gathered tonight to honor Justice Edwin Peterson with the Hans A. Linde Award. This is our highest award, and it is given to our Oregonians who have promoted the values of individual rights and liberties, genuine equality, access to justice, and the rule of law. Past honorees include Justice Linde himself, the first awardee of this prestigious award, after whom it's named, Justice Michael Gillette, Charlie Hinkle, Governor Roberts, Michael Dale, Justice Schuman, and State Senator Rocky Padilla. And last year we honored Willamette's own Warren Binford. Justice Linde and Justice Peterson had a close relationship for decades, and they served concurrently on the court. Justice Peterson was elected twice as Chief Justice, an election that is participated in by the justices on the Supreme Court. And so he served from 1979 to 1993 and was first elected chief in 1983 and re-elected in 1989. Justice Peterson and Justice Linde were also distinguished jurists and residents at Willamette Law School. And I came to know both of them in that capacity quite well. And it was always a delight for Ed to come by my office and chat about the legal issue that was on his mind or the mentoring that he was doing with students of color at Willamette. He's certainly a legend at Willamette in that regard. Also, I think that Justice Peterson is well known not only for his mentoring of students of color at Willamette, but I also served with him when he chaired the Law Enforcement and Data Review Committee, which is a statutorily created committee whose members are appointed by the governor. And Chief Justice Peterson chaired that committee for many years And the purpose of that committee is consistent with the rest of Justice Peterson's career to address racial profiling by law enforcement agents and to bring greater awareness to police officers throughout the state of Oregon. So finally, I just want to give my congratulations to Justice Peterson. I just want to mention one of his mentees, a man by the name of James S. Davis. I never had the pleasure of meeting James Davis, but he came into Willamette Law School, and in his first year, the O.J. Simpson verdict was announced. He attributes passing the bar and completing law school to the support of Justice Peterson and his wife, Anna. After James Davis graduated from law school, he went on to work with farm workers. And in that capacity, he came to realize that Justice Peterson had preceded him in interactions with farm workers. And Justice Peterson had gone out to meet and assist farm workers and other people in need, according to the many organization leaders that discussed that and revealed that to James Davis. So I want to congratulate Ed for your tremendous career and your inspiration and your great dedication to people of color in the state of Oregon. And here's to you, Ed. Godspeed.
Thanks so much, Gil. And with that, we'll also have another one of our esteemed colleagues here, Lisa Yoon, do another presentation for Justice Peterson before the formal award.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lisa Yoon Reynolds, and it is my honor to introduce the recipient of the American Constitution Society's 2021 Hans A. Linde Award recipient, the Honorable Edwin J. Peterson. A quick Google search tells me that this award honors Oregonians who promote the value of human dignity, individual rights and liberties, genuine equality, and access to justice. You certainly chose the right person, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about why. Edwin and I met in the week leading up to my first year of law school at Willamette. The year was 1996. Now, I want to take you all back to 1996 for a quick minute, if I could. In 1996, the President of the United States was William Jefferson Clinton, Bill Clinton. And also in 1996, the majority of Americans did not carry a cell phone. Can you imagine? And for those few that did, the phones looked very different. There were no apps, no text messaging, no Facebook or Instagram, no swiping left or right, and no sliding into DMs. The #1 top-rated television show that year was ER, and the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1996 went to Mel Gibson's Braveheart. But do you know what wasn't a part of the conversation in 1996? Allyship. In terms of social justice, the word ally is defined as follows. An ally is a person who advocates for groups or individuals who do not come from the same place of privilege as the ally. Justice Peterson has been an ally to me and to countless others long before allyship became part of the cultural zeitgeist. See, today in 2021, especially in the times that we live in after the murder of George Floyd, it's not only accepted, it's almost expected for people with privilege to be allies. But it wasn't always this way, and it certainly wasn't this way in 1996. Because let's face it, these topics, bias, understanding racism, racial justice, they're not necessarily a lot of fun. And I'd go so far as to say that for some people, it can take a lot in order to understand. It requires a person to take a hard look at their own self, their own experiences and their own biases, and basically get really uncomfortable. Racial justice, understanding racism and bias, These are also issues that could easily not have been Justice Peterson's problem. He didn't have a personal stake in the issues. It's not like he had a family member or in-laws that were people of color. For lack of a better phrase, he didn't have skin in the game. His life probably would have been just fine had he done nothing. But that's just not who Justice Peterson is. By doing the hard work and in turn encouraging others in similar positions to do the same, especially with his Understanding Racism courses, he was able to shine a light on problems in Oregon and its legal community that may well have never been addressed. Because it's one thing to read and learn about racism and bias, but actually sitting in a room and listening to a person's lived experiences is very powerful. These types of hard conversations are happening today more than ever before in companies all across the country. But Justice Peterson has been fostering these kinds of conversations for decades. And for that reason, you may call him a groundbreaker, a pioneer, even a trailblazer. But I have the privilege of calling him my friend. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Justice Edwin J. Peterson.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. I would thank you for the American Constitution Society Oregon Lawyer Chapter for this award, and to Brad, Gil, Bridget, Rohan, Aaron, Bobbin, and Lisa, James, Rizwan, former students of mine, and others for your kind efforts in all matters relating to this occasion. Thank you to Juan Chavez, Senator Wyden, and Senator Feingold for your valuable contributions. The Hans Linde Award honors, and let me quote, Oregonians who promote the values of human dignity, individual rights and liberties, genuine equality, and access to justice. I would note that Hans Linde deserves his position on the plaque. Here's the plaque, the Linde plaque. He was a highly respected legal scholar at the University of Oregon and other institutions, both before and after his term on the Oregon Supreme Court. He blazed many trails and our paths crossed and converted in many places over the course of over 16 years. Professor Linde began teaching at the University of Oregon School of Law in 1954, the same year that I enrolled in law school. I was not one of the students then. Later, Justice Linde was a member of the Oregon Supreme Court when I was appointed to the bench in 1979. That was just in time for me to learn more about his espousal of the need to rediscover states' bills of rights. I didn't realize it then, but the day after I was appointed, on May 15, 1979, Justice Linde was in College Park, Maryland, delivering a speech that would be reprinted as an article in the spring 19 issue of the University of Baltimore Law Review. The title of the article is, quote, First Things First, Rediscovering the State's Bill of Rights, end of quotes. Let me quote from the summary, quote, Justice Linde's speech, addressing the failure of state courts and lawyers to decide questions of constitutional right under their own state constitutions. When state law protects the interest at stake, Justice Linde suggests that a state court confronted with a constitutional question should always examine its state constitution before looking to the federal constitution. The 1980 article is persuasive. It is controversial due to underpinnings of case after case being argued and decided without even looking at the Constitution of Oregon. I encourage you to find that article, consider it, and keep it. For about 11 years. And we're also colleagues for many years at Willamette University College of Law. He was a native of Germany, incidentally. He was very bright, productive, and an effective advocate for his opinions. He was also able to anticipate how an opinion he was writing could serve when another issue came to the court later. I learned that from him and added a new lens to my consideration of cases and opinions. We could disagree on issues, many issues, but we were good friends. We also played chess. We were fairly even matched. Let's just say that I like winning and I like playing chess with Hans Linde. Hans Linde was a warrior for human rights and equal justice in an area of intense focus for me over the decades. We were allies. This focus is the matter of racial and ethnic justice or injustice in the Oregon courts. That wasn't always a concern for me growing up in a small Wisconsin farming community. My moment of truth arrived in the 60s when I was a lawyer in Portland, teaching an adult Sunday school class at an Episcopal church. I told a joke to illustrate a point, and nobody laughed. On the way home, I realized that the joke had placed a Black man in a bad light, and there was a Black couple in the class. I was mortified, ashamed. As soon as I got home, I called them and apologized and admitted how stupid I was. My wife said, the wife of the couple said, "We get so tired of being the butt of every joke." I will always remember that as my day of awakening on racial concerns. While I served as Chief Justice, there came a time in the late 1980s when I saw a task force report from other states about the racial discrimination they had documented in their judicial systems. This was very, very troubling. There should be no bias in the courts, but the prejudice in society had permeated the judiciary. I realized that Oregon likely had the same problem, and I decided that we should do something for our own study. Through a careful process, the task force was established in 1992. I was the chair. The report of the Oregon Supreme Court Task Force on Racial/Ethnic Issues in the Judicial System was published in 1994. It was dreadfully, painfully honest. The first page depicts a scroll in text that says, quote, "An act passed by the Oregon Territorial Legislature in 1849 provided, quote, a bill to prevent Negroes and mulattoes to come to or reside in Oregon. Whereas situated as the people of Oregon are in the midst of an Indian population, it would be highly dangerous to allow free Negroes and mulattoes to reside in the territory or to intermix with the Indians, instilling into their minds feelings of hostility against the white race. Therefore, be it enacted by the Legislative Assembly of the Territory of Oregon that it shall not be lawful for any Negro or mulatto to come into or reside within the limits of this territory, unquote. The report introduction states, quote, non-minorities have brought about many of the problems that minorities encounter, unquote. It instructs non-minorities to join in the responsibility to address and solve these problems. The task force report offers more than 100 pages of evidence, conclusions, and necessary steps for the Supreme Court to monitor and implement. We've made some progress since then, but not nearly enough. Find this report, read it, and make your own commitment. I knew the wheels of justice turn slowly. I made it a priority to keep advocating against racism and for equality in the judicial system. I spoke wherever possible in friendly territory or not so friendly. By the time I retired from the Supreme Court in 1993, I was already mentoring law students. That has continued for nearly 30 years. I also serve on the law school's Minorities Student Affairs Committee. Many dedicated friends and colleagues have invested themselves in these efforts. We formed a nonprofit study program, the Understanding Racism Foundation, that has operated for decades. Other judges and lawyers have volunteered in moot court and mock trial programs for high school and college students. Our task is not finished. I'm simply compelled to make equality and justice a reality for all in Oregon. We need to overcome the barriers and advance the cause together, all together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Justice Peterson. Thank you for your career. Thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you for the tireless work that you've done for racial progress in our state and as well as the nation. We're just deeply honored to have you here tonight and to celebrate your legacy. I think it goes without saying that your contributions has been great, and we're just so glad to have you here tonight. Now, there's also some other awardees that we're going to celebrate tonight. We have our Rising Star Award coming up shortly here for Juan Chavez. And to introduce Juan, I'd like to introduce Bobin Singh. Bobin Singh is the Executive Director of the Oregon Justice Resource Center. He has served tirelessly in the state of Oregon to provide a number of different priorities, serving on the board for the ACLU, helping draft legislation and reports to dramatically increase juvenile justice in the state, and as well as to provide for better avenues for civil rights. So thank you, Bobin, for joining us tonight, and I'll hand the mic over to you.
Thank you, and I'm honored to be here to be able to provide a few remarks about my friend and colleague, Juan Chavez. Juan is this year's recipient of ACS's Rising Star Award, and all of us at the Oregon Justice Resource Center are excited for Juan and deeply appreciative to ACS for this recognition. I'm the founding executive director of the OJRC, and we're celebrating our 10-year anniversary this year. Over this past decade, we've grown to a 44-person staff, public interest law firm that provides legal services and support across 7 legal programs to over 700 Oregonians annually navigating the criminal legal system, or to those who have been harmed by state action or inaction. Tonight, ACS's recognition of Juan Chavez as a rising star celebrates Juan and his work leading one of our leading legal programs, our Civil Rights Project. A few years ago, when Juan and I discussed collaborating and building out a civil rights program, Juan's clarity about how it would exist and who it would help has not only been the guiding principle for the Civil Rights Project, but has become the North Star for our organization. Simply the question he asks when thinking about a case or an issue is this okay? Or to put it another way, is it okay for a member of our community to be treated this way? This simple question and the resulting answer of no, this isn't okay, has guided Juan and his team into some of the most important civil rights cases in Oregon. From defending the right of individuals without a house to exist with dignity in our community, to defending the right of those in our prisons and jails to be free from cruel and unusual punishment, to defending the rights of our community members in our streets who are protesting for racial justice, to defending our community against police violence and misconduct, to defending the right of our community to be free from the intimidation and terror of white nationalists. Juan's tenacity for recognizing and defending the dignity in all of us makes him a rising star with the type of gravitational pull that in fact bends the moral arc of the universe towards justice. In his tenure at the OJRC, leading and developing the Civil Rights Project, his way of moving through this world models the best of what we can ask for. His humility ensures that he always centers the work and not himself. His compassion ensures that he is focused on creating new tables rather than protecting his seat at the current table. And his leadership works to create success in others because he understands that by lifting up others is truly the best metric of success for himself. As I mentioned, all of us at the OJRC are honored to be celebrating this recognition of Juan because we get the distinct privilege of working with him every day and seeing firsthand his commitment to his craft and to this community. As time inevitably marches on, and as the turbulent times that we are in begin to segue into the next chapter of history, many of us will look back and reflect with questions about our role in what transpired, and specifically our response to those hard, brutal truths that were made so very clear this past year regarding the inequities driven by white supremacy that form the foundation of our society. I'm confident that part of my answer will include that I was blessed to work and advocate alongside Juan for the rights and dignity of our community. Thank you, Juan, for all that you do, and congrats to you on this award. And I'm pleased to introduce Juan Chavez.
Thank you so much, Bob. And please, everybody, have a seat. Hold your applause. Thank you all so much for this award. It really means a lot coming from the American Constitution Society, especially in these times and the times that are likely to come. They're going to be difficult, they're going to be hard, but I know that it's a blessing that we have a progressive organization fighting against the very well-oiled, heavily funded machine that's trying to diminish our rights further. And truly one of the bright spots of this current administration has been the judicial nominations we've seen. It gives me a lot of hope. Now, it's hard to see an award like this that only has my name on it, because I know that there are countless people who have helped me get here in perceivable and imperceivable ways. It would take longer than the 5 minutes I've been given to list everybody. I'll do my best. Of course, I'm here presently in this office because of the amazing place I work at, the Oregon Justice Resource Center. Bob and saying it just has a vision for dismantling the white supremacist machinery of mass incarceration, and it inspires me to no end to see this office grow to what it's become because of your sheer grit and your imagination. I'm one of those weirdos who really loves where he works, and it's because of the people who work here. I've likened my role to being kind of like the privilege of being the lead singer in the best band in the world. I do get to hold the microphone a lot, but I'm nothing without the band itself. So I just like to say thank you so much to my ride or dies, Franz Brogemeyer, Alex Neggett, Brittany Klesser, and Johnny Gersten, who Johnny would of course be on the synth if this was a real band. We'll practice one day. I also I know I wouldn't still be a lawyer if not for the guidance and friendship that I've had from so many of my mentors and heroes. Special shout out to Ben Hale, Ashley Albies, Jesse Merrithew, Lynn Walsh, Crystal Maloney, and Cassia Rutledge. I've been lost many a times in this job, and I'm grateful that y'all always still saw something in what I had to bring. So I'm grateful. Now, in the last 2 years also, while we've been working on our COVID and prison lawsuit, I've had the absolute privilege of working with David Sugarman and Nadia Dahab at the Sugarman Law Office. I've learned so much from watching those two litigate this monster case, and I'm just awestruck by their mastery. I've often called myself a feral lawyer, having not really learned a lot of what I think other people kind of imagine the lawyering job to be. And I watched David and Nadia work, and it's just, it gives me so much to work towards, to aspire to be, and to truly take on the issues with as much vigor as they do. But enough about lawyers for a second. I also, of course, would have to thank my parents for getting me here, not just biologically, but also philosophically and spiritually. I know I've made them worried over the years at times, but they never once doubted that I was sincere in what I was choosing to do. So I'm really grateful for that. I also, of course, have to thank my amazing partner, Sam. She's seen me work through some of the hardest years of my career so far, and I'm thankful you're always there by my side, and I love you so much. Thank you. Now, now that I've exercised the emotional parts, I do need to also talk about the serious stuff. And what comes to mind, I guess, from the last few years is our COVID in prison suit. There's a lot of parts to it, but more recently we sought an injunction against the Department of Corrections for not prioritizing prisoners in their vaccine rollout. I've said in the past that that was the easiest motion I've ever written. And why that was is for a myriad of reasons that I won't put into my fee petition, because it was actually very complicated, but it was still kind of easy in some ways. But it gets to, I think the simplest reason why it is that we take a case at OGRC, and Bobbin already said it. We ask a simple question: is this okay? And this was so not okay. Denying vaccines to one of the most COVID vulnerable populations in the state was so manifestly not okay that really the brief wrote itself. We had spent a year watching this stuff happen. And I know people with the state also watched this happen. How this came to be still required that people who knew better, who had watched the pain and horror that Oregon prisoners suffered, and still decided to violate their rights in this manner. I think what a lot of people don't realize about constitutional rights is just how hard it is to vindicate them. We're fighting the vestiges of slavery, of settler colonialism, and the still active forces of white supremacy alive in our country. And we will fight that, and we will win. But it will require dismantling these structures that we take just as a given. There's no given reason why we should have a Department of Corrections. There's no reason we should have a prison. It's our hope that, in this suit, we honor the lives lost to COVID, both in our state, but certainly within the Department of Corrections. And we look forward to a day when we mature as a society past this ugly history of mass incarceration. One of my favorite quotes from the Law for Black Lives group is that revolutions don't happen in the courtroom, they happen in the streets. And it's absolutely true. Lawyers are only as strong as their clients. So I'd just like to lastly, but not leastly, thank the brave plaintiffs who brought these cases. Many of them have put their lives on the line. And it's an honor to represent them as we fight all this. Sadly, we've lost too many in the process, but I am grateful that they still fight on. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Juan. It's been a great inspiration to see everything that you've done already, and we're honored to celebrate the what you have accomplished in your career already. We're super excited to see where you're going to take your career and the work that you're going to be doing. And all of you at your team, along with Bobbin at the Oregon Justice Resource Center, for the great work that you've continued to do and build on. We're just honored to celebrate you and your accomplishments, and to take this time to celebrate, raise a toast to all of our awardees for all that they've done, and to celebrate the good times while we can. Even as we've gone through this past couple of years of COVID and all the hard times, it's important to take time to celebrate one another. And we're just absolutely thrilled to celebrate you and everything you've done, along with Justice Peterson and all of our other awardees. We're just extremely thrilled. With that, we are going to be moving on to our keynote speaker, U.S. Senator Ron Wyden, our senior senator here. And to introduce him, I would like to pass the mic to Erin Roykoff. She is our vice president of our local chapter here in Oregon, has been a staunch advocate for our judicial pipeline project, spearheading that and providing invaluable names and resources to those candidates who didn't think when they were growing up they could be judges, because there wasn't very many judges like them. And we just thank Erin for all the work she's done for that project, as well as other countless events that she's done for ACS Oregon here. So take it away, Erin.
Thanks, Brad. And I want to say a quick congratulations to Juan and to Justice Peterson for awards that were well-deserved. As Brad mentioned, my name is Erin Roycroft. I'm the vice president of our lawyer chapter in Oregon. And tonight I have the honor of introducing our keynote speaker, Senator Ron Wyden. I know that the senator has been traveling around the state during this week's Veterans Day recess. So we very much appreciate that he has taken the time to be with us live tonight. I believe he's coming from Eugene, but I'll let him confirm that. Speaking of traveling, one fun fact about Senator Wyden that I have learned recently is that he has made it a practice to hold a town hall in every county in Oregon once a year. I had to look it up. There are 36 counties in Oregon. And so that's quite a feat. It, I think, is really a testament to his commitment to the state. Senator Wyden has represented Oregon in the United States Congress since 1980, when he was first elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. I'll add that he was elected first at the tender age of 31. And I have to admit that when I learned that fact, I spent a few minutes questioning my own life choices. He has served in the U.S. Senate since 1996, where he currently serves as the chair of the Senate Finance Committee. Whether he's introducing a billionaire's tax to ensure that the ultra-rich pay their fair share of taxes, or fighting to protect consumers' privacy rights online, Senator Wyden embodies what it means to be a progressive champion. Near and dear to our hearts at ACS, Senator Wyden also takes seriously his duty to provide advice and consent with regard to judicial nominations. As Brad mentioned, and as Russ Feingold, our ACS president, mentioned earlier in the evening, we've been focusing as a chapter and as a national organization very heavily on our Path to the Bench project. We've been pushing both at the chapter level and at the national level for more equality and diversity and representation on the bench. And we very much appreciate having the partnership of Senator Wyden and his office in that endeavor. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Senator Wyden.
There we go. Erin, thank you so much for that inflationary introduction. And I'm going to, wait a second, looks like we're not coming through here. Okay.
Gotcha.
Erin, thank you for that very generous and inflationary introduction. And folks, I'm going to have more to say about Erin as we go through the evening. I do want to say right out of the gate, a big congratulations to the awardees of tonight's dinner, Justice Edwin Peterson and Juan Chavez. They are the awardees tonight, and we're all very pleased to have them secure this recognition. I am, in fact, a proud graduate of the University of Oregon Law School, although my wife often says my husband is a lawyer in name only, and she is, of course, correct. Truth be told, the court where I spent the most time practicing was the basketball court, where I very much wanted to play in the NBA, got a college scholarship, but that wasn't to happen because at 6'4", I was too small, and I made up for it by being slow. So that was not to be, but I have, as Aaron noted, had this extraordinary honor to be in public service, particularly apropos of tonight's topic, to be part of strengthening the court with the most qualified candidates and have judges who accurately represent communities like ours. The work is only possible if you have smart and committed colleagues who work with you to ensure that the federal judiciary is more accurately representative of communities like ours. And the American Constitution Society's Oregon chapter is such an outstanding ally. And I'd also like to note that your head, former Senator Russ Feingold, and I worked very close together on the Senate Intelligence Committee, and he is a very good choice for heading the American Constitution Society. And the bottom line is partners like you who are committed to the best possible choices for the bench are more important than ever right now. That's because, unfortunately, far-right Republicans have made rules changes in the Senate that have tilted the nominations process in a way that just promotes raw partisan gain. And during the Trump administration, we were faced with what, in my view, was a nakedly hyper-partisan exercise, light years removed from the way a fair process would actually work. It meant hurried confirmation of dozens of extreme judges to lifetime appointments, and it was the type of cynical exercise of power that Americans are frustrated by. And I'll also note it's the type of power I'm committed to reversing in the United States Senate. Justices for lifetime appointments should not be part of a solely partisan exercise. And like in a lot of instances, what we call the Oregon way is a pretty good roadmap of a fair process designed to produce the best possible candidates for the bench. Our state has a long and bipartisan tradition of working together to identify the most qualified candidates for judicial vacancies. That's the process I followed when Republican Gordon Smith was my colleague in the Senate. It's the process I continue to follow with my fellow Democrat, Jeff Merkley, as my colleague in the Senate. And it's my hope that this type of open-minded collaboration influences the current national debate over judges. And at this point, I do want to give a special thanks to your organization's own Vice President, Aaron Roycroft, for serving recently on the selection committee for the 9th Circuit vacancy. The service of Aaron and others on the selection committee forms the underpinning of how a solid process produces solid judicial candidates. In this instance, my neighbor in Southeast Portland, Oregonian Jennifer Sun. She brings broad and extensive experience to this judicial opening, having worked with distinction in public service on Oregon's Employment Relations Board. She also brings a stellar legal career in the private sector with a practice that focused on representing both labor organizations and employees. Diversification of the courts is key if we're going to provide equal justice to all. So I look forward to voting on the floor of the United States Senate soon for Ms. Sun, an Asian American woman who has fully earned this nomination with her outstanding track record. And I want to close simply by saying that I have enjoyed my productive partnership with the American Constitution Society's Oregon chapter, and I'm looking forward to continuing that in the days ahead. My view is, and I'll close with this, you are the gold standard for thoughtful allies committed to the strongest and fairest possible federal judiciary, and that is certainly the Oregon way. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you so much, Senator Wyden, for joining us tonight and for those kind words for us and all the hard work you've done. We're so excited for you to join us this year and looking forward to when we get back in person. Hopefully you can join us then and help us rise the toast to all of our great awardees that we've had for the past few years. And I'll see you probably tomorrow at the Ducks game then.
Wonderful. Big thanks.
Excellent. Well, with that, I'd like to thank everybody who's joined us tonight. Thank the hard work the board has done through the course of this year. It's really the past 2 years. It's an unbelievable amount of effort that we've been able to do to continue providing high quality gatherings like this, as well as everything else that we've done to promote legal and progressive causes in Oregon. It's an incredible amount of work that we're able to do. And we're just so glad that everybody has been able to continue on and strengthen during these times. And we're just, once again, so incredibly thankful to be joining and celebrating both the career and legacy of Justice Edwin Peterson with Hans A. Linde Award and with Juan Chavez with the Rising Star Award. I'd be remiss without saying to thank you to all of our great sponsors, both locally and nationally, which allows us to continue our works and our efforts, both in helping to reform the judiciary here in the state and nationally, and providing for legal causes, promoting civil rights works of all of our kinds, and to providing a progressive view of the Constitution. We're just outstandingly glad and thankful for the support that they've provided us this year and in the past. Looking forward to it in the future. And hopefully everyone has enjoyed tonight's program. We've been just exceedingly proud to present all of this year. Thank you, Senator Wyden, for joining us, and congratulations to everybody here. Hope you had a good evening. Get home safely, and we'll see you again next year. Take care.